Hello and welcome to the Carbitrage Podcast, episode 255. I am Eric Berger, joined as always by my co-host Ryan Sinitsky. Hello.
How is the studio the hottest place on earth?
It was 65 degrees Fahrenheit this morning.
I
opened the door
feels
4
like
hours ago, and it has still got to be 85.
No,
up here.
it feels like it's probably about 70-ish, but it's like 1,000% humidity. It says 70 with a dew point of 69.
Nice. Nice. Anyway,
it's so humid.
we also have a guest with us again who has been on the show before, Dan Balto. Hello.
Hey, good to see you guys again.
So, last time we had you on was probably up of 2 years ago, something like that.
Pre-pandemic, certainly. I'm going to say 2019.
Cool.
Well,
so,
your app went into
I was going to say,
beta.
now you're probably representing Carmunity, not MNCEC. And that's probably one of the biggest changes.
You know, yes, but also no. I've been pulled out of retirement as our current president is on holiday with,
Mr.
Elton
Tam?
John.
yes.
with Elton,
goodbye.
literally on holiday
Sir Elton John,
with
yes.
Sir Elton John, yeah.
Yep.
Because that's what you
Yellow
do
Brick Road.
when you're Tam, is you have your car, you drive your Miata with your face on it,
Correct?
and then you go on holiday with Elton John, Sir Elton John.
Sir Elton John. He has
Yes.
been knighted.
He's with Elton John on tour.
He
like,
is.
literally in real life.
The
So it's
actual
pretty cool.
Elton John actual tour in the United
Yeah,
States.
we're not exaggerating or joking. It's very cool.
No, that's how Tam do. So, oh my goodness. Welcome to chat, Katie. All right. Before we dig into topics with Dan and Ryan, I briefly want to touch on beer. We're actually drinking something good right now.
New Galaris, yeah.
Yep, Spotted Cow. We will not be drinking good beer next episode because I am pretty much all out of beer down here.
I don't understand the existence of Budweiser.
Dan's hydrating, looks
Yeah,
like.
Yeah.
Dan is hydrating.
That
I
is
don't-
the same 24-pack of Budweiser that has been here the
How
entire
much did
time.
that cost you?
I don't know. So,
Was it more?
it was left in my unit, but it is still beer.
Because this is my thing. Budweiser is not good. Nobody drinks Budweiser going, this is delicious. People just drink this, okay, this is and beer.
Yes, correct.
But Hamm's does all of that better. It is objectively good. It is $13 for a 30-pack
Mhm.
at Target.
I buy hams.
Yeah, it's much better than...
This isn't beer I bought.
That was actually my entire sales pitch. It's
Okay.
just $13 and
That's
it's
fine.
good. And it's Budweiser is not good and not $13.
And you get more beers with the hams, too.
Yes, you get way more beers, and they're actually good. They're very palatable. They're really good. I really love them. Budweiser sucks. Anyway, New Glarus is great, but you have to go to Wisconsin to get it.
Yeah, but I live like 11 minutes from there, so it's really not a big deal.
This is the thing. Since they put traffic, or since they've been like working on the 94-35E interchange,
Mhm.
it has made it no longer fun to go to Wisconsin for me because I have to drive through that.
Yeah.
You're on just the other side of that traffic.
I am not anymore. My exit's closed. I have to
Oh,
take
no.
Cayuga and drive through St.
Oh,
Paul.
that's bad. That's terrible.
It's been fine. I mean, I've been...
Well, to go to Wisconsin, that's east of
Oh,
downtown.
sorry.
That's what I was
yes.
saying. Yeah, 'cause
I'm sorry. I thought you meant
take
just to
you
work.
take Mounds to go on 94 East, and yeah, that's much easier.
Hams is good, chat. Hams
Yes.
is good. Spotted Cow is also good.
Yeah, but yeah, Spotted Cow is fantastic. I'm a big fan of it.
Well, cheers to that.
It's worth the drive.
It is. And I don't even think I had to drive for this. I think somebody who came up to the last LAN party, or maybe it was the MNDQ Carbitrage. Anyway, somebody brought it, and I just paid them for it. So
Perfect. Yes.
hand delivered. Before we dig into my first topic, I briefly want to reference our Patreon page for those who feel like supporting the show. Patreon.com/Carbitrage. On this webpage, you will find 2 open-ended levels of support, starting at $1.50 a month, just to help us pay hosting fees and to buy some booze. So if you'd like to, head on over to Patreon.com/Carbitrage. If not, totally fine. We'll keep right on recording. So we have talked about a lot of Hyundai Kia lately, and I really think the chord that they've struck with us most has been like that Hyundai Pony retro car with like
Yes.
the really pixelated rear end.
Yeah, they're leaning on their classic Giugiaro designs.
Well, they're doing it again
Ooh, yeah,
with
I know what you're talking about.
the N Vision. So I'm trying to make it load here. Let's see what happens. Come on.
But speaking of Hyundai,
There we
while
go.
it's loading,
Yeah, we got it. This thing is
that's really good.
stunning. And what it is, it's a rear-wheel drive EV that looks like a Group B rally car mixed with cyberpunk, and then it also has a hydrogen fuel cell under the hood to generate more power.
And exhaust note,
Yes,
which is cool.
it is very cool. And everything I read and listen to about Hyundai N Division, like their priorities have been the same for much longer than electrification has been commonplace in like the actual consumer car market.
Yeah.
So the fact that they are not putting an N, branded Ioniq 5 or 6 on the road, or even creating a prototype, something like this, fueled by the N division that doesn't have, their cornering prowess. I can't even remember the term they use.
Yeah.
But it's seriously like happy handling or something like that. Like it needs to be fun in the corners.
Yeah.
It needs to be racetrack ready, and like there's just 3 principles that make a car good. It's something a 911 doesn't do.
They're making what an M car is supposed to
Correct.
be.
Yep.
Which
and used to be.
And this right after M.
And then, I wonder if that's...
No, it's because of Nürburgring.
Okay.
But I also love that. I feel like that's a very, very good... Because Hyundai and Kia poached all the German talent from Germany.
Yep.
That's like Germany doesn't make anything good anymore.
I remember, they pulled all the performance people from M, and then they took the styling division out of Audi.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess we'll just go over to Hyundai Kia
and
now.
then took a bunch of Porsche people as well, if I'm not mistaken.
They probably did.
Porsche was the Audi people, too, yeah. So, the
true.
same people. So.
True, yeah.
Yeah, they literally just gutted Germany, and they just put them into Korean cars. And they're very cool. They're very good, and they're really leaning on the Giugiaro design, which I love.
Yep.
And
I have another link in here which has the original concept car, which I thought was really cool too.
Oh yes, the original '74 Pony.
If I can get it to open this time, we'll see.
The actual production Pony did not look anything like the concept, but was actually kind of a cool car.
The other Pony car. So this, it looks a little dated, but 1974, I think that's when this.
74, 75.
Yeah, that would have looked out of this world futuristic.
Well, yeah, the Countach should come out a year prior.
Right.
And then Hyundai is like, oh, hey, we do this.
We can do like a cheaper, family-friendly Countach.
Yeah.
And just...
Well, the production version of that car was much more utilitarian in style. But if you just Google like 1975 Hyundai Pony for a 1975 compact car, it looks objectively good.
It did a better job pulling styling cues than a modern concept car does by a huge margin.
Certainly agreed, though it does look like a overweight DeLorean.
It's a
little bloated.
Yeah,
the irony
except for
being,
the fact that it weighs way less than that.
I was going to say, the irony being that DeLorean was insanely heavy because of its exoskeleton of stainless steel.
Yep.
But yeah, these 70s Hyundais, like, they were based off Mitsubishi platforms with like cool bodywork, and so like you could like people could totally lower these and stuff and like
look
make
at the
a
slotted
cool
mags, man.
Yeah, well, if you just Google, like, I would recommend just Googling 1975 Hyundai Pony to see the production version, because Dan and I are looking at the production version.
Yeah, the yellow one definitely reminds me of that 79 Lancer that I
saw.
saw.
Yeah, it's a really just like a 70s Mitsubishi product, and it doesn't look bad. Like, I would say that in the best way, because you have to understand, this point in time, about every car was about as plug ugly as you could get, and this I actually enjoy the styling of, so it's very cool.
Yeah, like a larger AMC Gremlin, right?
It's more like, I would say, like, it's what a Chevette wanted to be. Like a Chevette, if a Chevette was actually designed by a designer, that's what it looks like. I think
instead of being designed to drive with one wheel missing.
Wait, is that actually true?
No, that was the Citation.
That was the Citation, but the Chevette was actually a very cool Japanese design. I think we've talked about it here a million times. The Suzuki Gemini.
If it's come up once,
the
it's
Isuzu
probably
Gemini.
come up before here.
Yeah, we've talked about Isuzu many times and how great they are. But like the Chevette in Japan was cool, but like when they just brought it to America, they did not care what it looked like at all.
No, they just wanted "and car."
Yeah, this is car. You have car. Speaking of weird car design stuff, you know the Z32
sure
300ZX?
Yeah, that's the one I prefer.
The one you prefer. You know that's got a really low drag coefficient of .031, and
I think it's just .31.
Yeah.
Did you? Yeah, sorry, it is .31, not 031. That was a typo.
That would be impressive.
That'd be nothing. The .031 is the EV1. Like they actually had a.
Damn.
Yeah, it was really low.
It's a small frontal area too.
I was thinking like land speed record car or something like that.
Well, that's the thing. Is the EV1 is very similar because if you actually look at the EV1, like there's nothing that like gets in the way. There's no grill. There's no windshield wipers. They don't even have trim on the windshield. Like,
I do like the charging wafer.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, a lot of it's about just like cross-sectional area, though.
Exactly. Did you know that the Z31, the one I like more, the
Yes.
80s car, actually a lower drag coefficient?
I did not know that.
0.3 versus
Does it-
0.31.
Was it the Zenki Kuki or both?
Both.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm
they
surprised it
both
didn't
did.
make any difference.
Yeah, because I mean, if you look at it, the Zenki and the Kuki, really they still have the weird headlight thing going on. But I just think it's very interesting that that car had a lower drag coefficient.
Yeah, the car that looks like it was designed exclusively with a ruler is more aerodynamic than one that was designed in CAD.
That's the thing is a lot of 80s cars are wrongfully like people say, oh, it's unaerodynamic because it's square. Well, bricks are actually very aerodynamic.
Are they?
Yeah, actually, the bricks have surprisingly.
Is that why buses sort of work?
Yeah, a brick is more aerodynamic than a Countach.
I refuse to understand why that's the case, but I do accept that it is the case.
Because if you think about the number of faces on a Countach,
yeah,
that actually expands the amount of area that is getting touched by air.
Turbulent air.
Yeah. Whereas a brick, you just have the square footage of the front end. But if you have a car that's actually canted back like that, and if you think on a Countach, you have those weird like side windows between the doors and the windshield that kind of go like this. All of them have trim around them. You have pop-up headlights. You have scoops everywhere. There's everything in the world that catches air on a Countach. That's like Countaches have like a drag coefficient of like 0.6.
Oh my goodness.
They're really bad. But the thing is with 80s, like actual 80s cars, is they couldn't. It was very expensive to make power in the 80s.
Okay.
So to make a car actually go fast, you had to make it be efficient. That's why fuel injection happened in the 80s, and that's why you had active suspension in the 80s and things like that, and like active aero. So when you're at like low speed, where you don't need the aerodynamics, it wouldn't be there getting in the way. But if you're at high speed, the aerodynamics would start being a thing.
Sure.
But so cars like the Subaru XT6, like the most painfully blocky vehicle in the world.
I watched the Kamesa piece on that, and I couldn't believe. I mean, it was actually
It's
really
a very,
interesting.
very interesting car. But it has got a really low drag coefficient.
It does. It's like 0.29 or something.
I'm gonna Google it real quick, but
Like it was as good as the 850, I think.
it was by far. Yeah, it was 0.29.
Yeah.
So the Subaru XT6 had a drag coefficient that was actually lower than its successor, and was actually the most aerodynamic Subaru like up until like the last couple of years.
I believe it. I mean, 0.29 stood for a long time, and I think it just tied the 850, and that went for like 15 years.
Yeah, and like it's a really very cool car. And so when you actually look at like the cars with the lowest drag coefficients, it's actually cars from the 80s, because you had this like sweet spot where you couldn't just keep making more horsepower. You actually had tires that could do something, like grip the road, that weren't just like bias ply or like polyglass tires.
I mean, bias plies were pretty good cutting through snow. That was pretty much all they were good at. Yeah.
But then you didn't have the pedestrian safety requirements that came into play like in the 2000s. And that's why in the 80s and in the 90s you had actually very aerodynamic cars, and even in the 90s you had more safety things for like crashing the car into other people and stuff that were coming into play.
Yeah, I mean, with the 1997 crash test standards were a huge step up, and then 2012 was another really big one.
Yeah, so in the 80s you had that like sweet spot where you're safe enough, you're not going to die.
Do you have restraints? Yes.
Yeah. Okay. You'll be fine. You're not going to be ejected from the car.
Right.
Like, that's all you need.
This is a fantastic list, actually.
Yeah, but if you actually look at the list, the Wikipedia list, like if you look at towards the top, it's like a lot of cars. And if you actually, here, Dan has on his computer, scroll up to the top.
Yeah.
I think there is one that's like 0.03 at the very, very top.
Just most aerodynamic cars?
Yeah. No, just keep going all the way to the top. Let's see here. 0.29, 0.7.
I was going to say, 3's going to be at the bottom.
Yeah. Go to the bottom then. I'm sorry.
And, I mean, these are all production here, so we have to go there if you want to see full on.
No, I think it is a production. Oh, XL1, that's what it was. It's 0.19, sorry, not 03.
Yep. That was the diesel proto car, right? Actually, no, they sold a couple of those.
They did. That was the thing that went into production barely.
It had the Polo Blue Motion engine and a insanely slippery body.
Yes, and
I think it had a manual too.
the Tesla Model S credit. Well, I mean, so they say the Tesla Model S has a drag coefficient of 0.21.
Yep.
That's assuming. That's also assuming that Tesla build quality means that all of the body panels are aligned correctly.
I think it also assumes it has those really disgusting early like flat wheels.
No, this is for 2021.
Oh.
So yeah, so I think that's like
fine.
a build
I
quality.
know mine hurt mileage.
And I also imagine that having the door handles stuck open and stuff like that probably it doesn't.
Luckily,
help.
that never happens. They just break and stick closed.
So actually, speaking of Tesla, I have a new hobby that I've begun when I'm on the road is taking photos of Teslas and trying to find the build quality problems on them.
It probably won't take much. I mean, Model 3s to this day and Ys are still being delivered with like massive issues.
I saw downtown. I had to go pick up Jan's parking pass yesterday morning. I saw a Model 3 in front of me. It's brand new, still had dealer plates on it. It had a moisture leak in the left outer taillight.
Tesla says it's normal because their inner and outer lens lights. I'm like,
that's not normal.
If that's normal, redesign your taillight because that's not good.
That looks horrific.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this is normal. It's normal. Look like trash.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
It's
cool.
also not hard to fix. 3M actually makes a product that you can literally just like throw over, like drill a hole, throw it over, and it's like a one-way vapor barrier.
No, it's like Gore-Tex.
Yeah. Thank you. Could
So,
not think of the brand name.
Patent pending. Not pending at all.
Yeah.
So I guess
believe
like,
it is fully patented.
If having bad design issues is just normal, I guess a Tesla Model 3 is just a modern Ford Aspire where it just doesn't look good, and that's the way it's supposed to look is bad.
Or even like the first gen of Aveo that came here. I mean, it's a Daewoo, so that's good. But like the corners that were cut to get it, like with Chevy badges stapled on, it
Even
really
in
wasn't
Korean
well
version,
made.
It always looked bad.
Yeah.
The car always, at no point did the first gen Aveo ever look good.
No, and it wasn't well put together. And I don't know if it had like missing paint areas. Like I see this all the time on the local car group where a new Model 3, they open the hatch and there's literally missing paint that is starting to rust or something inside of the hatch on like a brand new car.
That's amazing.
So Model 3 and Y, especially, the panel gaps are still awful on a new Tesla Model S even still, but at least those are largely aluminum, so it won't rust when they forget to paint it.
Yeah, it's not going to be long till Tesla is just... I honestly think they're either going to go bust or they're going to have to pull a Ford, and like Elon Musk is going to have to get removed like entirely from the company.
I would like
and
that
his,
much
yeah,
more.
that'd be great. And his successor has got to do like an Edsel Ford where he makes like a Model B, where it's just like a much better vehicle in every way.
Whoa, there's some wind.
That's very good wind.
Sorry for the wind noise, everybody.
That was very enjoyable. Anyway.
Yeah, I can hear it on the mic, but whatever. Other than that, all right. Next topic.
Yes.
You guys probably saw this. I hate bringing up DeMiro on this podcast because we don't like
I hate him. He's horrible.
But
He's bad.
I just want to talk about the product. So we don't even have to reference who reviewed it on this particular link. But a man has reviewed a Cygnet, and not only is it a Cygnet, which is already ridiculously rare, it was actually the original Geneva Motor Show
That's cool.
demo car,
That's
which
very
had
cool.
custom floral
So
inlays.
he got that from the Peterson, if I'm not mistaken.
Entirely possible.
Yeah.
I think it's currently owned by some dealership in Southern California, but I didn't realize how interesting the Cygnet actually was. When it was first launched, it was essentially kind of a buy one, get one free with your V12 Aston so they could have their compliance vehicle that reduced their carbon footprint. Because Aston Martin doesn't have like a Volkswagen or a Fiat brand in-house to kill their CO2, and electrification and all that kind of stuff really wasn't going on when these were released in 2011.
No.
So it is a Toyota IQ.
Yes.
They have changed nothing mechanically on it, but I didn't realize how much of the rest of it they changed. Like every single piece on the interior.
Oh, yeah. No, they're actually really good, yeah.
It's fantastic. I mean, I looked at the seat and I'm like, I would daily this.
No,
and you could get it with a stick still.
Yeah. Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. This one's a CVT. But.
Literally, the only thing that's holding me back from getting an IQ is the fact that I cannot get a manual in America.
Oh, yeah, but you could, all the swap parts exist in
Yeah, I don't want to have to swap my daily.
Then you might be able to get substantially similar and import one. This is here on show or display, but it's a Cygnet, not an IQ.
Yeah, I wonder if I could do a substantially similar. The EPA would be a problem.
But this is unique in a way because it has floral inlays, but it's not unique because almost every one of these Cygnets was done up by the in-house division in Aston Martin that does customization. So
Yeah.
it's like BMW individual. They audit what you want. It's almost like a Rolls-Royce experience where you tell them what you're into, and that's what the inlay and the headliner become.
That's really good.
Oh.
And
I like that a
not
lot.
only that, they'll color key like the piping in the leather. The leather, you have a standard choice set, but the piping in the
Very
leather,
cool.
it's like a Jaguar thing.
Yes.
It's the more you look at it.
I'm a big fan of cars like this. This is good.
And let's be honest, you're driving an IQ, so it will never go wrong, and it'll probably do 40 miles to the gallon. I kind of like this
I
thing.
really, yeah, I genuinely love them. Like this, and I really wish like minis were better because I'd love to get a Goodwood mini.
Yeah.
But like, then I'd have to have mini ownership. I don't want that.
If you could find one that had been done up and has a D series in it or something, it would be perfect.
I want the whole thing, the whole Goodwood, because I found out you could actually get a Goodwood with a manual.
On
Good.
The, on the
They were
Cygnet,
very rare.
were these OEM fender
No,
flippers?
that's a V8 swapped one.
Oh, the
Okay,
green
Top
one?
Gear did
That's a
it.
one of one that Aston
Okay.
built for a guy.
Just
Yeah.
want to make sure.
Only
I think
ordered
it was
it.
for Top Gear, was it?
No, it's
Oh, it was
Top
a
Gear
guy
did cover
actually.
it
A guy actually ordered it. That's
Yep.
amazing.
on the condition that there would only be one made ever. And
Yes.
it's a V8 Vantage with a Cygnet stuck on top.
Oh,
Good.
dear God.
That's perfect.
But
I
yeah,
love that.
It is a manual
Yeah,
V8 Vantage.
Cygnets are good.
underneath.
Like they're very, very good vehicles. Any small hatchback, I'm a fan of. And any car that's like you can personalize it a lot, I'm
Yeah.
also a fan of. Similarly, the Toyota Prius C,
Mhm.
they had a very limited trim level. Wow, look at that headliner. That's
I know.
amazing.
It's fantastic.
The headliner, or not the headliner, but there's a Persona trim level for the Prius C where you could get like color keyed any color that Toyota makes. Basically, you could get like special trim for, and it wasn't just like they just take the normal trim and like repaint it. It was a completely different piece of trim that they would add onto the car. Actually, made the cars look 100% better. It was very cool.
I wasn't even aware of that. I mean, the Prius C is already the C and the V are the most interesting of the Prius line, but the C actually handles really well.
I really like the C. Like, did you also know that this Prius C is the
It's a homologation car, isn't it?
no? It's the best-selling car in Tahiti.
I'm sorry. Shouldn't
Yeah.
laugh at that.
Now
but
you know.
I do know that.
That's a fact.
The Prius C isn't still in production, is it?
Oh, if I know, it might be. I don't know.
I'm sorry about
There's
the
a
wind
lot
noise,
of them that are used.
but I'm
so-
also not sorry about the wind noise because I really like the breeze. It's still hot in here.
Prius C was discontinued in 2019.
Okay, so Tahitians are just driving older cars. They're just going to become the new Cuba.
Yeah, they are. Everybody's gonna
In
have.
50 years, there's just going to be Prius Cs running around with
I don't know
like
what they're
full
buying
electric
now,
powertrains.
but like basically, you see like Prius Cs in Tahiti, kind of like how you see like Corollas in Afghanistan, where everybody and their mom has one. And it's not a matter of like what car do you drive; it's what Corolla do you drive.
And like the Fiat 126P in Poland or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 126 Polski.
Yeah.
You see Corollas, not Hiluxes?
Yeah, no, if you actually like Google, like if you just go on Google Maps and go to Afghanistan, it's all Corollas.
Huh, the Merino.
Yeah.
Are they all stolen?
No, they just import them because they're super duper reliable,
Mhm.
and you don't need to do any maintenance on them. And if you have one that's like in the middle of like the Panjshir Valley, like you can't really get to a Toyota authorized service technician, like you're just gonna drive it and it's gonna work, and
Is
that's
that
how
like
it works.
a Honda Element you buy used where it will get you home
Yeah.
and it will continue to drive, but everything that can be avoided on the repair bill was?
Yes, it's like that.
Okay.
I got an idea. We're probably going to have to patent this after the show. Satellites
Okay.
that drop car parts from orbit.
How can... They would burn up.
No.
No,
You gotta
that
just
also-
put it in the right, entry pod.
That sounds really expensive. Like,
Also
I need a
terribly expensive.
I need
Or
a control
terribly-
arm.
No, not only that, terribly dangerous. Because you know how many dipshits in like Florida would stand directly underneath it and try and catch it. But anyway, I uploaded a photo of
God.
a
It's got
Prius
some
C
issues.
Persona series.
Let me go to the notes real quick.
It's a very, very good looking car.
Oh my goodness, it has the same pink accents as the Cygnet.
Yeah, isn't that good?
It looks much more
Like,
upscale.
It is a completely different piece of trim. And there's actually another piece that for some reason is not on this photo, but it's in a different one. But there's a piece of trim that goes on the door as well. I will upload that photo now.
Wow, they actually made Priuses cool.
Yeah, no, they really did. Like, Prius Cs are objectively cool cars. and HKS made exhaust and coilovers for them because there's a one model, like a one make race for them in Japan. But yeah, see on the door, there's that piece of trim.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it totally makes the car like 100% better. I very badly want one.
Yeah, I'm not sure changing like the window sweep piece is. Well, I mean, it's great though. They don't have to change any hard points. They can just put this on the assembly line. So.
And it really does help a lot when you see them in person. Like it looks like if you see this next to a normal one, the normal one looks like poverty spec by comparison.
Well, yeah.
It looks so much better with that trim.
But in the future, will this be one of those things where a low spec car is worth more, or will this be worth more because it's interesting and unique?
I think it's a Prius C, and they're all going to be worth the same amount of money because it's a Prius C.
It is a commodity car, yep.
And it exists. That's what it's going to be.
I am a Prius C, and I exist.
Yeah, like that's what you're going to be looking for. If you're somebody that's a collector and you're looking for a Prius C, like cool, you found one. Congratulations. It's going to be like finding like a 70s Corolla. Like you have it, good. Like will a Sprinter like GTS be worth more? Like yeah, maybe. But like you also have the Corolla right here that's good and works.
I feel like the only ones of those that have ever been taken off the road were like hit.
Yeah, basically, or they like, rusted in half, and that was it.
Yeah,
like nobody's ever nobody's ever killed a Corolla because of
no one's just had one and been like, I don't really like this anymore. I'm gonna scrap it.
No, nobody does that.
No.
Like everybody wants a Corolla at all times, and Prius Cs are very similar.
It's a modern AE86 is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, pretty much. So moving on, and I want to talk about actually what is the question of the week on Bring a Trailer of the week that we're actually recording, which is the last week in July.
I was going to say, that's rare for us.
Yes. And this question of the week is, what is the most underrated power plant?
Power plant referencing engine.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, engine or motor, I guess.
Oh, shoot. I didn't even think about that.
I should say mill of sorts, because a mill is just a power plant. What is the most underrated mill? So while you're thinking about that, Dan, you're thinking about that as well.
Yeah, we can have Dan do his answers too. I'm going to throw in one electric.
Yeah, no, I want Dan's answer as well. The first one, I've got three here, because we always do three when we have these things, because we can never decide on one. I'm going to say the Nissan L series for performance.
Okay, so that was the 240Z.
Yeah, 240 through 280ZX inline six.
Mm-hmm.
People always rip those out and put in an RB26 that's less reliable and makes less power.
I have seen recently a lot of people having very catastrophic issues with the RB series engines.
Yeah, because they have like timing chains and stuff, and people don't.
No, they've got like,
they've got belts, yeah.
But they have like valve train metallurgy issues like Audi engines.
Oh wow.
Yeah, like RB26s are not good as it turns out.
No, this is why I like 2Js. Like if I'm gonna get an inline six, like a 90s inline six, that's to be reliable, I'm gonna get a 2J because there's a reason that everybody builds LSs and not Ford Coyotes, and there's a reason everybody builds 2Js and not RBs. The RB is a very fascinating engine in the same way that a Coyote is a very fascinating engine.
It's a very complex engine, which means it's going to have more issues, and the issues are going to cost you more to sort.
Exactly. And some random guy lived in Gunma and had that car but was just barely to get past Shotgun for like 30 years. You really think he did all the maintenance? No, he just did enough to get past Shotgun. That's what he did.
I assume that was the Japanese inspection.
Yes,
okay.
That's the Japanese tube.
Nice.
Shotgun. But yeah, the Nissan L series, their inline six, like it was a reverse flow, like single overhead cam cylinder head.
That wasn't even SOHC, was it?
What?
I thought it started cam and block. It was always SOHC?
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, it was a direct overhead cam, so it didn't have any rockers or anything. Like you just push direct on the valve tap it.
And it's got quite like a motorsport pedigree too. I mean, that engine's still campaigned aggressively today.
And in the Midnight Club, the ARB Hosoki car had made like 800 horsepower or something silly like that.
Jeez.
And it was
an iron block. I mean,
yeah, and you can make like 300 horsepower. You can make 100 horsepower per liter on those easily all motor. Like I shouldn't say easily, but like
for a reverse flow head, that's impressive.
Easily enough for a reverse flow head. Like you can make like big power on them. So
the later ones go cross flow, don't they?
Nope.
Really? They were
always even with fuel injection and turbocharging. They were always reverse flow. And they're
nice.
Yeah, the 280ZX engine bay is very humorous to look at. It is definitely MLA's engine bay.
Let's engineer around this problem. I don't
yes, exactly. But I think if you are making under 500 horsepower on a Datsun of sorts, like on a 240, and you ever consider removing the L Series engine, you're doing yourself a disservice by removing that. Like it's like pulling out what's that the BMW engine that's in the Supra now?
The B58.
Yeah, it's like removing a B58 to put in a 2J.
Yeah, it just doesn't
like,
make sense.
Where you're like, why would I understand that you can make a lot of power with the 2J, but like you're doing a ton of work when you could really just put a larger turbo in the B58 and be fine.
Yep.
And like L Series, like big cam, poured out the head, and that will and high comp pistons, and that will get you a reliable 300 horsepower.
I believe it. I mean, the bottom end is not the limiting factor, even on a 2.4.
No, the limiting factor is like emissions.
I was gonna say still the head flow characteristics, but I don't actually know the L Series that well.
If you actually pour out the L Series head, they flow really well.
Sure.
Like it's shocking how well they flow.
So it might just be like heat soak between the intake and exhaust. Then that's the biggest issue.
It's just they were tuned for emission stuff and fuel economy. Like that was literally it. It's
like
emissions,
CVCC,
fuel economy, and
thermal reactor.
Make it as reliable as humanly possible. And because like that's the thing is like in Japan, like cars coming from Japan at that point in time, like in the 50s, Japanese cars weren't terribly reliable, and American.
Like the Toyota Crown?
Yeah, like a lot of Americans took like 50s Japanese cars and said, all right, all Japanese cars are unreliable. Similar to like how up until very recently people said all Korean cars are unreliable because Korean cars from the 80s kind of sucked. But if you took like the, but yeah, so when Nissan took the L Series and brought it to us, they just made sure like, all right, this needs to make enough power to be as fast as a Charger. Okay, cool. There you go. That's what we're going to do. Also, this will never, ever break in your entire life.
Or you will lose your job.
Yeah, like that's your sales pitch. It'll just never break. And it never did. And that's how you see L Series like getting pulled out of barns and stuff, and people slap a new carb on, a new gas tank, and it runs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like, is it frozen? Is it stuck? No.
No, it's not a problem.
Nope.
Like, because it was designed to make way more power than it's actually making.
I do like overbuilt stuff, and I believe that about the L Series, and it also sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it's a good sounding inline six.
Yeah.
Like it's very similar to my second choice, but
my
I will
boss's
get to
Ferrari has an L in it. That sounds good.
I will move on to my second one after I hear what your first one was.
All right. I know what it is, so I'm not going to page over on my comments, but I am going to submit for my first choice the Toyota 2AZ FE, which is the 2.4 liter that's in the Scion TC, the XB, the Camry. It's a really boring engine, but not only are they just unflinchingly reliable, they never, ever break. The stock rotating assembly can handle like 600 horsepower.
Yes, they can. They make good power. There's one.
Nobody tunes those.
There's one catastrophic issue with them.
What is?
The water pump.
Is it chain driven?
No, the water pump wheel is iron. The block is aluminum.
Ah.
And if you don't change the water pump before it fails, it'll eat up the block.
Oh, great. So you need like a sacrificial anode in the cooling system?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
What you do is like, at about 150-ish thousand miles, you just replace the water pump. Nobody ever does.
Of course not. It's a Toyota.
And so if they ever fail, it's because they overheated because of that.
Sure.
And what it does is it doesn't like mix water and oil. It just cuts into another cooling jack and it creates a cavitation issue. So
Toyota 4-cylinders have had cavitating water pump issues for as long as there has been time.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't affect their reliability at all.
No, doesn't seem to.
No, like as long as you just don't
Unless
like roach
you
the
live at
cylinder
the
head.
I figured like if that electrolysis got so bad, maybe it could create like a pinhole leak between some galley and the cooling pathway. But again, you can find a low enough mile 2AZ for free.
Yeah,
that's probably not a huge
there's a
issue.
reason that you see like the world's worst looking Camry still driving with like 500,000 miles on it because of that. Your Bentley flag went away, but we're not going to do anything about that. Dan, what was your first choice for that?
I have first, second, and third. They're all just going to be a family of engines, and not the answer you'll expect from me.
All right, so what's your first one? And then we'll go to the second and third one after this.
The 2.5 liter 5-cylinder turbo engine out of the Volvo S60R, I think.
That's a good choice, yeah.
Weird. I've never thought because
The
whenever
Volvo
I think
white block.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, there are fans of that. Every time I see a white block, though, I just think of how reliable that
The
red block was.
Well, the red block was awesome, and let's be honest, the early NA white blocks in the early 2000s before they turbocharged them were really not good. But the later, the S60R and the V70R white block turbos are actually really solid.
Really?
Yeah. I figured you guys were going to go with 6 cylinders, and since I'm a 4-cylinder
No, that's a
guy,
5-cylinder.
I didn't want to go
That's
with,
a solid. That's actually a really solid choice.
I was thinking through it when I was entering the rest of my choices.
I almost went with the 5-cylinder as well on my list, but I didn't want to give that company too much credit. But I'll give them an honorable mention at the end here if nobody else guesses what my second choice was, or what my second choice was. I guess I'll go on to my second choice since I've been talking about it. Chevy Stovebolt.
So that is the 53 to 57?
No, it's older than 53.
Really?
Like, it was from the 20s.
Oh, yeah.
It was like 27 to like,
yeah.
I think like, God, the Chevy Stovebolt.
That was one of the first
engines.
engines.
It outlived the Thriftmaster, which replaced it.
Oh, my God. Oh, yeah, that was the Corvette engine, the Blue Flame, right? The Thriftmaster?
Yeah, that was a Stovebolt.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was based off of a Stovebolt. It was a Stovebolt with a higher compression cylinder head, I think.
The Blue Flame.
And I think like twin carburetors, I think.
I think the Stovebolt was the first production car engine in America to have a pressurized oil system.
That would make sense. So it was 1929 to
Yeah.
1963 in the United States.
I believe it was.
But they made the Stovebolt until 1979 in Brazil.
Good God.
Yeah.
I mean,
1929 to 1979.
can you
That's
imagine?
insane.
Okay, so an engine, if you, 1,000 years from now, you came across the schematics for a Stovebolt, and you just created one, again, with
Yeah.
like modern lubricants, that thing would probably outlast time.
Yeah. Like,
Because, I mean,
really.
a lot of the issues with why boomers are like, oh, we gotta rebuild that engine every 30K, it's because, like, well, your oil sucked. And, like, a lot of times you didn't even have an oil filter on a car that age.
Yeah.
So, no wonder shit got stuck in your bearings and it ate itself to pieces. But I do wonder, like, it was already really reliable with the cards stacked against it.
Yeah.
So,
And, yeah, they like today, like that's why people modify them for builds. Like, it's very difficult actually to find. So like in like the hot rod world, like the Stovebolt cars, it's like sacrilegious to remove a Stovebolt from the car. It's kind of like
a flathead Ford.
Yeah, it's like swapping a flathead or like removing a nail head for any reason. But
we've struck a chord, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, it's just
a chord that he created.
Yeah, it's a better engine. But yeah, so
and let's clarify, it's better because it is worse.
Yes, but the Thriftmaster actually was technically a part of a Stovebolt, but it was a more modernized sort of
and let's
thing.
Not forget the Jimmy 6 that was produced alongside the Stovebolt slightly
true,
later.
yes.
That was the engine everyone cared about because there was more tuning available for it.
Yeah,
but that didn't mean the Stovebolt was a bad engine.
No. And so the 235, the Blue Flame engine, was the original 53. Corvette engine. And like those made like between
100, 110, weren't they?
You could make there's a version with 155 horsepower on the Corvette.
That's really good.
Yeah.
What was I want to know the top engine RPM where it made its power. Was it like 4,000 RPM?
4,200.
Wow.
But
can you imagine the wet honk coming out of those
twin
carbs?
Amazing. Triple carbs, triple singles. Amazing.
Oh my God.
But it was another reverse flow inline 6.
I'm sensing a pattern here with your choices.
Right?
Is your third one a reverse flow inline 6?
No, it's not.
Okay.
Oh, thank God. I almost was, and then I changed it because I was gonna say the Jeep 4.2. But then it's like, no, I can't do a Jeep 4.2. And the 4.2, the later Jeep inline, the last inline 6 I made.
Yeah, 4-liter.
The PowerTech or whatever.
It was the.
Oh yeah, it was a 4.0. Yeah, because the 4.2 was earlier. But
I only remember that because I remember being triggered at the badges saying LITRE for Litry.
Litry.
It's like the British spelling, even though it's an American
AMC, but it was a Renault design.
Oh. Yeah. No wonder it was good.
Exactly.
It was French.
Yeah. So with the Stovebolts, there's a ton of aftermarket support, like as much aftermarket support for Stovebolts as there was for like flatheads and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get like Offenhauser, like intake manifolds. You can get true dual exhaust, which makes the greatest noise, which is like a cross between a Harley Davidson and a motorboat.
I can picture it sounding a lot like a big display, like an M30 won't rev.
Do you remember that Jag I showed you that I said had the best sounding exhaust ever? Because
Yes.
it had the true duals. It sounds like that.
It just sounds like
but
a
wet.
lazier, bigger, wetter.
Yeah, it's that, but
the
wetter.
30, yeah.
And then when you raise the compression, it's more like sharp sounding. They're very, very cool engines. Like you can make a lot of different noises with them.
It's fascinating how much just a compression ratio change can change the sound of an engine.
Yeah, and with stove bolts, it's immediately noticeable.
Also, can we comment on how good that name is?
Yeah.
Stove bolt?
Stove bolt?
Well, you know why they named it that, right?
Because it's made out of cast iron?
No,
No.
the bolts that they use to assemble it actually resemble the ones that they used back then to
So,
assemble stoves.
yeah, on the passenger side of the engine, below where the spark plugs are, because the spark plugs going sideways,
Yeah.
not down, not angled,
No,
literally
the pistons
sideways.
don't go anywhere near the
Nope.
top of the stroke, so
They don't.
side it is.
So directly below that is where you would access the push rods,
Okay.
and there's I think 8 bolts, and they literally look just like bolts on a stove.
Hmm.
And there's giant open bolts. You pop them open, and that's how you adjust the push rods. And then you just put in a new cork gasket, and you pop it shut. That's it.
Truly a simpler. term.
Literally, yeah, it's called a stove bolt because of that.
One of those
inch-
came into a certified motor dealer in 1934. They open up the panel and there's coal in it. Like, what were you doing? Like, I thought it needed more coal.
I thought it needed cold. It was running cold. But yeah, very, very cool engine. What's your second choice?
My second engine choice is, let me page over. Okay, the Hyundai Tao V8. That engine gets no praise at all. So it's their 5-liter V8 that came out in the Hyundai Genesis full-size car.
They put it in nothing interesting. That's why. They put
They-
that engine in nothing anybody
Correct.
cared about.
They never put it in the Genesis Coupe. They never did like a pre-N. I don't know.
They wouldn't even give Injuku one for when they had their Genesis Coupe drift car. And Injuku ran LS, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe it. They should have run like a VK56 or something just to piss on them. But it is, like, on paper,
That's a good engine, yeah.
it's just like the Toyota 5-liter that's in like the ISF and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But it's arguably even better.
How so?
It's Korean. I prefer Korean engines to Japanese engines. It's subjective.
It's just
But the Tao is very reliable.
it is just as good as a Lexus, but
I'll tell you why it's better.
The thing is,
they
no,
didn't put their
we're not trying to
tailpipes.
say we're not trying to say that they're
diagonally.
better. We're just trying to say underrated.
It's better.
And this is clearly underrated by just being equivalent. Could make it underrated.
The Genesis tailpipes never were stacked diagonally.
That's true, and they all worked.
It's true.
They
They were
didn't
all
have-
functional.
They did not have fake exhaust.
That's
pipes on
why.
it.
But no,
Yeah.
the Tao is just like, it's just doing its job in the background.
It exists and it's cool.
But I mean, like, the world needs more JDM, KDM, NA V8s, because when they do them, they're fantastic.
This is very true. Like the used engines, now that LSs are not $1.
Yep.
And now LSs
People discovered
are literally
them.
$3.
Cash for Clunkers
yeah.
days, nobody gave a shit about the 1UZ.
People
Now they're
kept-
actually commanding some
people
money.
were removing 1UZs to put in LSs
Mhm.
and drift cars. And I'm like, that's dumb.
It's very dumb.
This is more effort.
So we'll find out in the
It's
future.
it's like Jay-Z swapping a Skyline. Like
Yep.
you don't
We're-
need to. Like,
We're on the same path we've been on this whole episode, but like, it wouldn't surprise me in 10 years' time when you can pick up $500 Genesises, whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if they're DI. I don't think they are. I think they're port injected. But like, it wouldn't surprise me if those things just have like 1UZ grade bottom ends because it was their first V8 and they needed it to not fail.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. Heck,
So-
but they couldn't base it off of Mitsubishi either. They had to actually make it.
No, I think it was their first actual ground up engine that they made.
Yeah.
And I know the Tao is
It's
just
a good engine. It's a good
underappreciated.
engine. Yeah. No, you're right. Dan, what's your second choice?
One of these had to be a Mitsubishi, so I'm just gonna say the sorry about that. The 6G75 V6,
Is that the one that's in the 4th gen Eclipse?
and a few other cars as well. Yes.
What this way is it?
Is
3.8?
that the 3.8 Myvec?
Absolutely.
Is that the same one they use in the Genesis Coupe?
Yes, actually. And ironically
Okay,
enough,
yeah.
the coupe actually uses the correct 4-cylinder, not the one in my car, which is the 4B12 engine. So a slight derivation on what's in the Evo, as opposed to that, shitty one that's sitting in my car over there.
The boat anchor attached to an automatic?
Yeah, basically.
Cool. It has been reliable, though,
Yeah.
I will say.
I will say, absolutely. But yeah, the 6 not only can handle like nitrous and a bit of boost pretty well. Most people throw just like a supercharger on it, and
Yeah,
they
those
have
are
like
actually good engines.
Evo killers right away. So.
I would-
Good, because
I
the
would
factory
say-
power output's very underwhelming.
Any like Mitsubishi V6 is slept on. Because the 4.8 or something, what was the one that was in the Montero?
That's a good question.
But yeah, people could swap Montero engines into third-gen Eclipses, and they were equally as reliable.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Mitsubishi V6s are very good,
What
not
engine?
often talked about engines.
There's a all-wheel drive silver third gen. That's turboed in V6.
Yeah.
Is that just a 3?
That's the one I just said.
That's-
6G75.
Okay.
Yeah, 6G75.
Is that a 3.8?
Yes.
Okay.
And boosted.
Well, I
and
knew it was
automatic,
boosted.
as it turns out. Well, you
It's
had to.
such a clean car,
you
though.
do have to swap the components from the. Is it the Montero? Or what's the one with the all-wheel drive
Endeavor?
SUV? Yes. Thank
Endeavor.
You.
You have to-
Endeavor
yeah.
rear
That
end
thing's
and tractor.
transverse?
Yes.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, so
I
they
guess it is unit body.
they have to be V6 in some applications if you want all-wheel drive. I think now there's an adapter to use the Evo transmission.
I hope so.
I think there is. But for a long time, you'd have to make the automatic work. So also, like,
So
weird
that's got an
underrated...
Endeavor trans?
Yes, like weird underrated
it's built now,
transmissions
but yeah.
is the Mitsubishi V6 transaxle. Because there's actually, like, you can get, like, dog-cut gears and stuff for it.
Couldn't you run like a GSX auto? Or were those never
Not
sold
then.
with auto?
Not at
Entirely
that point in
different.
time, like
Okay.
you could, like now you can because now you have adapter plates.
Okay,
that, like,
but the
come out-
bell housing pattern's all different? on the
Yeah,
V6s?
and like nowadays you can do that, but like back in like the 2010s, like when these cars were cheap and abundant,
Yeah.
you did not have that ability. And now like there's like a couple of guys have like they have like 3D printers. They'll make you a jig, so you can get the jig and you just take it to machine shop and they'll machine something for you.
I'm glad that stuff's getting so much easier.
Yeah, but for a long time, it was easier literally to just put in different gears on the automatic transaxle and just make the automatic transaxle actually good for drag racing.
Well, I mean, I understand that car is designed to produce ETs, and to do that, you really ought to have an auto box.
Well, I mean,
but-
you can do it with the manual. I mean, the
Well, I
fastest,
mean,
the
that
fastest,
red and black Eclipse, that second gen, that thing's in like the 7s now, I think.
Yeah.
6s, I think.
Sixes?
Actually. You're
Like,
talking about
I love that car.
Red Demon by
Yeah.
Boost in performance.
Yeah, the one that's
Those guys always just show up with like an open trailer, and they just look like they're there having a great time.
I just think it's so funny how cocky DSM people were in the 90s and 2000s. And then Hondas just like kick their shit in for like 20 years, and they're finally catching up with Hondas after having their shit. They're just
That's
like,
the thing. If you had an all-wheel drive K car, you could easily do that.
if you could have a good driver in a front-wheel drive B series, you're still giving that car a run for its money.
True, isn't? Yeah, they're 6-second
The-
front-wheel drive Civic.
I think it was like during the pandemic is when
Yeah. I think we
all-wheel
talked
drive
about it.
Honda finally became faster than front-wheel drive Honda. Because like there's so
But
much
then
R&D in that.
That happened, and then I think the front-wheel drive went and did a faster run again, and I think it flip-flopped once
yeah,
before it
it-
actually stayed all-wheel drive.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting.
'Cause, yeah, that car is insane. It was that silver BG, I don't even know.
Yeah, to me, those things
Yeah.
are just chariots. You know, you're just like whipping the horse in front of you, and you have nothing behind the like front two wheels of the driver.
I really liked that. I don't think it ever actually worked well, but somebody put a V6 backward in front of the front axle on a Honda to try to get it to hook better. And it was
Yes.
still technically front-wheel drive, even though the engine was like way out front.
Oh my god, I know what car you're talking about.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think that's a Honda.
I thought it was a J Series V6.
I might be wrong.
Okay.
But it's that weird era between street outlaw cars becoming fast
Yeah.
and between like the first wave of like early 2000s import drag racing, where you'd have like tube frame cars that are running like 9 seconds and just have like a 5-minute like 60-foot time. Just couldn't figure out how to get him to hook for like 10 years.
Bias plies.
Once they were able to make him like hook it for like, literally it wasn't until like we were in high school when they were able to like get front wheel drive cars to hook.
Well, tire technology, like, they had to wait for
Actually,
it.
more than that, it was suspension technology. Like figuring out the suspension, because what you have to do is you need the weight to stay over the front, and doing that without having the rear end jump around is very difficult. And that's that's actually where the giant spoiler on a Honda came from. This is a drag racing thing. Is that you weight reduce all of the weight out of the car, and then at like 100 miles an hour, the rear end starts bouncing up and down because there's just no weight. Because now you're
Oh, it's a first-gen Audi TT.
yeah, it's like your weight distribution's now like 75-25.
I believe it.
And
Oh, yeah. Like
you-
Miguel's car, I'm like...
yeah, like you can pick up and so Miguel's car, if you look, he had that huge, long wing that went off the back is actually is functional. Because if you actually see cars without those wings, like, the rear end will bounce all over the place.
That's terrifying.
Yeah, it's not fun. Nope. I've been in a car that did that. I put a spoiler on it for that purpose. And that wasn't because it was fast, it's because it was broken. But, yes.
What's the difference?
That was a thing where it would actually bounce around, and when I bought this like very particularly shitty Accord, and it had a big dumb eBay spoiler, and I took it off. And then I was driving it at like about 90, and the rear end started going like this.
And you put the spoiler promptly back on?
Yep, I just stopped and went home at normal speed, and then I put a spoiler back on. Went back to the next night, drove to my girlfriend at the time's house, going 90, and it did not do this. It did not commence the jiggling. So it was.
That is a really terrifying gesture I'm dealing with my eyes right now.
Yeah,
so.
it was the whole. Because I was watching, I looked in the back, and I would see the body of the car float separate from where the suspension mounts
That's going to
were.
be a pass from me, dog.
Yeah, so I put a spoiler back on that
All
because it was just a very bad, terrible car. My third one, my last one, is the reason I hate
Oh my goodness.
the
I had to go
existence
look.
of the small block Chevy. The Buick Nailhead. Why would you ever want to put a small block into your hot rod when the Buick Nailhead exists? It is so much cooler in every way.
It's
comes-
heavier, but other than that,
They come from the factory with a very, very large cam because the way they made the engine work is they just had tons of lift and duration. So it had just a super hot cam because it had a pent roof combustion chamber.
sure,
That's
okay.
the Nailhead name.
Pent roof is a cool
Yes.
designator. I like that a lot.
But it had a pent roof combustion chamber, so you'd have a huge lift and duration cam. So when you cut the exhaust off of them, they already sound like a cammed out small block, and it's just stock. And it's very cool. And it doesn't matter what carburetor you put on it. Anything over 500 CFM works great. The more you put on it, the more it likes, because it has too big of a cam from the factory. And so
They just undid the performance
Yeah,
within by like restricting the intake
yeah,
and
that's
exhaust.
actually, they restricted the hell out of it, and actually doing just the air filter gives you like 30 horsepower. Because of how restrictive it was, they wanted the engine to have as much torque as possible, make no noise from the factory, and then not ever shift, so they put it behind the Dynaflow, the dumbest transmission in the world. And so what they did to overcome all this dumb shit that they did to make this engine be as smooth as possible is they just made the engine very overbuilt. You cannot make much more power out of them without, like...
I imagine with heads you could.
No, nobody makes heads. Like, you can't get heads for them because they're not
kinda
a small block. Because
surprising.
nobody ever puts a small block in.
Somebody's got to make
But
heads.
this is the thing. You already make 325 horsepower and you have 445 pound-feet of torque. You're going to be fine in a hot rod.
Yeah.
Any amount of horsepower
Yeah.
will be fine.
I think you'll end
And
up
if you want-
breaking things
If you want more, you can do dual carb, like a dual carb intake. TA is actually making an aluminum dual carb intake manifold for like the first time in like 40 years.
Can you put a Ritz blower on it?
You can do that.
That
But I
would
mean, like,
sound really good.
just a dual carb intake with like a couple like 650 CFM carbs on it. And
Dual
you're,
quads?
Yeah, you're easily in the mid to high 400 horsepower range.
That's pretty good on stock heads.
Yeah, and then you put a supercharger on it,
Yes.
and then you can make really big power. But like,
I can't even imagine the tip-in torque with a blower on a nailhead. It'd be like,
the
well,
tip and torque on a nailhead with normal
Right.
is ridiculous.
Right.
With a blower, it'd be even more ridiculous.
it reminds me of what I pictured. No, the Crusher Impala that Roadkill did.
Yes.
They took that 454. I don't remember
Yeah.
what the hell it was, but it's a big block Chevy with an 871 Y-end on it, and it's got a stall converter in it. You touch the throttle and just both tires light up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, all right,
Yeah, it's
I kind of like that.
they're very, very cool. I also found out Jana's Buick has a posse in it the other day.
Hell yes.
Because I was at a stoplight and I put it in neutral because when I'm at a stoplight and I've got a very torquey engine, I don't want to have to stand on the brakes.
Especially with
Plus-
their manual brakes.
No, they're power assisted, but like they rebuilt the brakes, so they didn't rebuild the brake master cylinder. So like that doesn't. It's not like bad or anything. But if you catch a light and you sit at it for the entire duration of the light, the brake pedal will kind of go to the floor a little bit. Like it will still work fine, but like over the course of like 2 minutes standing on the brakes, you'll lose pressure.
Okay.
So I just put it in neutral just to make sure. I'm like paying attention, and like if it does lose pressure, it doesn't start inching into traffic.
Oh, you don't want to be the guy in the whatever the hell that car was last
exactly.
week.
I pay attention to my car, and I know that I'm like, these brakes aren't ideal, and that's why I gave the car a very wide berth anywhere I go, and if I'm ever doing anything, I always put it in neutral whenever I'm slowing down. But anyway, I put it into low instead of drive on accident, and I stepped on the gas as one would normally do.
To pull away, yes.
To pull away.
One might.
And it fucking pulled away. It pulled away.
And pull away she did, boys.
Boy howdy did it pull away. And boy howdy, the poor little like Somali grandma and her like Sienna with all the windows down because the AC probably didn't work. Did she get the scare of a lifetime? Because that car went wide open throttle. It was very loud and left 2 perfectly straight marks right in front of Popeyes. So yes, positive traction.
Perfect. I'm glad it's not even worn out.
Very, very happy to see that that exists and works.
I need a ride.
It's a great car. I love it. Like everybody should have a Nailhead. They are so underrated. They're like, you have to put so much effort into a belly button small block to make it like anywhere near as nifty as a Nailhead. Like it doesn't like not even like to get it like on par, but like as near as nifty. Just be able to do his basic Nailhead stuff. Like you have to do so much work. There's a Nailhead, you just put it in, and then like you just put in like a TH400 out of a Wildcat, which is a 3-speed auto instead of the 2-speed wannabe CVT weird like variable vane torque converter crap. And then you have a very good vehicle that is actually fast, like very fast. So yeah, there you go, Nailheads.
Heavy but good engine.
Yes.
All right, I will
Your
move on to
friend
my
is back.
third. Another one. Well, if he comes back over, I will pause. Take pause and kill him.
Anyway.
I'm torn because I didn't really give this enough thought when I was generating the list.
You thought engine, not power plant.
Yeah. So I'm going to skip the fourth one just because we're going to do 3. We're all doing 3. And I'm going to stick with my original, which is the Isuzu 3.5-liter V6 from 1999.
Mm-hmm.
So that was in not only all of the Amigos,
engine.
the Vehicross, it was also in the Honda Passport.
They never had a problem.
No, they're actually really good, and they made 225 horsepower out of a 3.5 and 99.
And it was
on regular
made to be
fuel.
reliable and put in a truck.
Let's be honest, that isn't the part that fails
No.
in an Amigo.
No, the part that
the
fails,
rest of it.
It's the rest of it. It's the axles that break, and then the entire truck's built around the axles, and nobody wants to replace an axle.
Correct.
That's actually why you see so many Amigos and Troopers like as off-road trucks, because they buy them like for $500 because they don't run, they don't drive.
Right.
When really it's got a broken axle.
And they just throw a set of Dana 45 and 60s under
Not
it.
even that. They just replace the axle.
Oh, okay. Or that.
And you remove the sway bars, and then look at that. You've all like wobbly, like independent suspension, and you've got like a foot of travel. You're good. Like,
But anytime you see an older Trooper or something like that with that 3.5 badge on it in California, which is the only place they probably still exist.
yeah,
Just
they
know
do
that
rust really bad.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
But
I'm
the
not
engine
saying the
doesn't.
vehicles are good. The engine might rust. I don't know, but it's good.
Yeah, it's fine.
It's a technological masterpiece, and the fact that that came out of a Isuzu, and it
Isuzu's great.
It was like a world-beating engine at the time.
Just think about it. Isuzu's never made a car that's known for having a problem with its engine.
True. I actually almost picked the 1.6-liter Isuzu Turbo that's in the Lotus Elan and the Impulse.
And I almost put the 4.2 from a Trailblazer.
I do really like the Atlas.
But I didn't want to have 3 inline 6s, so I needed to swap it out for an 8 or a 4. And I feel like
honorable mention for the LL8. I like that engine.
People expect me to talk about 4 cylinders, so
oh my god,
I was like, Eric will probably find some good 4-cylinder, and that you did.
The 2AZFE, and like
that
one took me.
I would have said the 2.7 Taco engine.
The 2.7 Toyota truck engine is also a sleeper. I mean, I swear that engine was farmed out from TRD. Like, the only reason that exists, like, oh crap, we really need a new 4-cylinder. We can't put the 22R in 1998.
They designed it to be the successor to the 22R, so it needed to be as reliable as the 22R.
Yeah.
And the successor part of the 22R is they wanted to be like the truck engine for the foreseeable future.
And it
So it
was.
was designed to meet and surpass emissions for 20 years, and which it did. And it
was
needed to
seriously advanced, too. I mean, that thing was twin cam, all the variable valve timing in like 94.
dual road timing chain. Yeah. Like it was
Really good engine.
Yeah, and I think you can still find them on like Toyota like coaster vans and stuff like in Japan.
Probably.
Yeah.
I can't imagine they were just in the Taco and the 4Runner.
Yeah. Dan, what was yours? I'm going to just look up this Toyota 2.7 for a little bit.
While we're on the topic of Toyota, I wanted to go with something, and I'm not sure if it's underrated versus rare, what have you, but the 1GZ FE.
That's a great
V12.
engine. Yes. The double 2J.
Underappreciated,
freaking
for
awesome
sure.
engine.
That's a double 1J.
It was only available in, like one car, too, so I kind of figured,
Century?
like, no one ever really
Or
got
the Crown?
it. Yeah.
I can't remember. Crown?
The Asian
Century.
Rolls-Royce, if you will. Yeah.
That
I've been
engine-
watching that Throttle House segment a lot lately since he bought one. He's like just putting up against everything. Briefly touching on that, they released a video last week where they put a Phantom against a Maybach 57S against the Toyota
Excellent.
Century.
Oh.
And they had the world's most clapped Phantom 7.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing, like, all the interior trim was broken. It kept going into limp mode when they floored it.
That's really fine.
Really bad. So I just wanted to say, holy hell.
But yeah, no, that's a very, very, very good
Yeah,
engine.
that engine's fabulous.
It's literally just two Toyota 1Js, and
Yeah.
you make the amount of power that two Toyota 1Js put together will make.
Go figure.
And in like 1998, you're gonna make like 1,000 horsepower with like 1998 tuning stuff, where like 600 horsepower on a 2J was like considered groundbreaking. The
With, like, a dump
Toyota
truck turbo.
2.7 is actually called a 2TR-FE.
Okay.
And yeah, it was in like the 4Runner and the Taco, but it was also in the Innova, the Coaster, the Hiace, the Fortuner, the Land Cruiser Prado, which is actually very cool. 'Cause
Whoa.
that's a Lexus GS.
Or GX.
GX, I'm sorry. Lexus GX.
Oh, man, if you could get a GX 270 in this country, hell yeah. No, that's a truck.
Yeah, that's what
Especially because you can get it with a stick.
you can get those in South America with a stick.
A manual GX 270.
Well, if the United States goes to shit, you can just move to Bolivia and have your manual.
And then I can lose money on yet another vehicle, which is only Toyota SUVs with manuals. Only two vehicles I've ever lost money on.
That's hilarious. How are you the only person losing money on Toyota?
And the trucks, too. Oh, he's back.
Yeah, like those should be the easiest cash cows in the world to
I have the next topic. I can't kill
acquire.
him.
So I'm just mind blown. If you want to,
No, it's fine.
if you want to kill him,
Ryan, I
If
might
he-
want to
if
rain
he
check about
sits.
that Auburn Speedster. I was thinking about this, right? Like,
Yeah.
Toyota has that V12. Otherwise, the Italians, I think, are the only other ones that normally make V12s in history. And then I
British
realized
and the Germans.
Germans make a lot of V12s.
I didn't realize that Americans did once upon a time.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, they made very cool V12s. Actually,
And I was
the
gonna say
engine,
that Speedster.
my
Apparently.
peak flathead engine.
Oh,
is
yeah.
a
Isn't
V12,
there like a
the Lincoln
Lincoln?
Zephyr.
Yeah.
It's a Ford. It's double, or it's a Ford flathead 12. It's very cool. But yeah, they call them a 66 here. Yeah, they're actually called a 66 in England.
Didn't it have four-cylinder heads, too? Because they couldn't engineer
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they did that. Like originally, yeah.
Although, no,
But-
they had straight six.
Yeah, Packard made a V12.
Okay.
A lot of Packards actually come with V12.
But this one specifically, that definitely looks like two valve covers on one side. No, that's Porsche, though.
that is a Porsche, yeah.
Yo.
Dan.
No, the
Yeah,
one
I know.
there.
I'll
If
fix
you
it.
Dan,
I'll
if
fix
you
it.
look at, so Packard, they did a flathead and an overhead valve, or an overhead cam V12. So the Packard overhead cam Marine V12 is actually a dual overhead cam with a supercharger.
A Packard Marine, you said?
Yes.
Is that just like a World War II Tech V8 that they just like reduced the displacement of a little bit?
Nope. They just put boat exhaust on it.
Ah, I see. So it actually is just
Literally an
an aero
airplane
engine.
engine
Okay.
in a boat that you could put in a car.
Didn't they? I think I saw a snippet online last week of a boat that had 4 of those engines in it.
Sounds great. I'm here for it.
I was just thinking about like how big the fuel tank would need to be on that to go boating for 10 minutes.
It's just the whole boat is made of fuel.
The economy on those engines is truly biblical. I mean, it is so bad. But they make
I think it's funny that they do all this like a single carburetor, so it's just like gigantic engine, and there's like one very inefficient, like maybe 400 CFM carburetor.
Oh, it's fine.
And
Yeah.
that's why they made like 120 horsepower, and they made like 6,000 pound-feet of torque.
Hey man, and
yeah.
it probably runs rich because of the tiny carb too.
Yes, exactly. It's
It's perfect for boost.
an amazing machine. I absolutely love American V12s.
Also, they have like bevel drive cams and 4 valves per cylinder and like all the tech.
and
in
then the
World War
world's
II.
worst, like updraft, like
Rochester or something or other.
No,
carburetor.
not even that. Just be the worst like no-name carb. It's just awful. So.
U.S. Army surplus part number AB128.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, okay, what's that off of? I don't know.
It's a carburetor. Is it put fuel into the engine? Yes. Okay, cool. Done.
I will take it.
Yeah.
Will it adjust properly for altitude? Sure.
Why not? Okay, cool. Done. That works.
All right, we're bookending this episode.
Yes, we are.
With basically the same thing, but this was like a week later. So, Hyundai's Ioniq 6, the like CLS looking thing we talked about in the last episode, they're already teasing the N version of that car, and it does look slightly better.
That's cool.
But this car, and they confirmed in the short video I watched, the Ioniq 5N that's coming first, and next year will also have it. They have a toggle in the infotainment which will shut off the front axle. So you can actually drift
wonderful.
it. Yeah.
That's great.
So I'm pretty stoked on that. That's the first thing I've really seen come out of an EV manufacturer that's enthusiast centric. And I mean, their entire video is the thing on the track, testing for handling and making sure it wouldn't overheat. So it wouldn't surprise me if that thing goes up Pikes Peak in a couple of years and is faster than a Plaid, because the Plaid keeps overheating its battery pack.
Implying it doesn't get stolen beforehand.
The Kia boys are in town.
Yes.
I did like that article. It said, like, prior to 2021, Kias did not have immobilizers. So I'm like, that means 2022 and up they do. I mean, they pretty much have to, because they pretty much won't be insurable at some point.
So they do have an immobilizer, but the immobilizer is built into the ignition cylinder?
Right. But, like, an actual immobilizer.
Yeah, a separate immobilizer that you cannot bypass by running a wire across the battery.
How hot wiring somehow just like happened to continue due to some huge faux pas designed by Hyundai Kia.
Yeah, way to go, Hyundai
Kind
Kia.
of amazing. But yeah, no, if the Ioniq 6N, in fact, that'd make it perfect for engine swap, candidate.
Yeah.
It means the ECU or motor control unit won't even care if it's not in that car. So
I'm all right with that.
Put that in my Tesla and actually drift it then.
There you go.
Which would be great.
On that tremendous bombshell, thanks.
Thank you all for listening. We will catch you next week.